Severely burned dog recovers and returns to hospital to thank vet who saved him. The West Palm Beach Fire and Rescue rushed to a homeless camp to put out a bushfire that was spreading at an alarming rate. After all the residents were brought out to safety, the firefighters heard the faint cries of a dog coming from the trees. Soon they discovered a dog chained in one of the trees, completely engulfed in flames. The firefighters acted fast to rescue the dog, but he had already suffered severe third-degree burns by the time he was taken to the hospital. The vets at the hospital weren't sure if the dog would live, so they had him transferred to the burn specialist at Jupiter Pet Emergency and Specialty Center, JPESC. At JPESC, the dog was named Smokey, and he was placed under the direct supervision of Dr. Frederico Latimer and his team. Smokey, who had lived all his life as an unloved guard dog in the camp, was overwhelmed when he experienced genuine love and kindness from his immediate caretakers. For the next few months, Smokey endured painful baths, bandage changes, and blood transfusions, but he was surprised to see humans working so hard to help him survive. He finally rewarded everyone by making a complete recovery. One of the care staff even came forward to adopt him. In this video, we see Smokey returning to the hospital months after his adoption. He thanks every single worker who looked out for him when he was fighting for his life. But when he spots Dr. Latimer, he goes wild with happiness. He runs to greet him and jumps into his arms and gives him loving hugs and kisses and adorably demands cuddles from him. What a tear-jerking reunion. We thank every person, and especially Dr. Latimer, who went out of their way to save this beautiful boy. Click the video below to watch Smokey's emotional reunion with Dr. Latimer months after his recovery. Please share to pass on this story to a friend or a family member. Mom hides camera after barking. Wishes she hadn't waited. Checkers was normally such an obedient and quiet dog, and he was great with the kids. But that night, it was like he was an entirely different animal. He barked and kept the family awake all night. Plus, he seemed way more aggressive. But when she discovered why, she got the kids out of the house as fast as possible. Gina Garrity had never been much of a dog person, but when she saw the Facebook post saying that Checkers needed a new home, she just couldn't resist. The kids fell in love with him instantly, especially little Marie, and he was so gentle with them. But his behavior was about to take a serious turn for the worse. When they picked him up from the shelter, there was no indication that Checkers was a dangerous dog. His previous owner had passed away suddenly, and the shelter didn't offer much information about him. It was when the dog was left alone that he started to growl and walk in circles. Then one night, things got seriously out of control. Gina woke with a start to the sound of loud barking. It was 3 a.m. The mother of three got out of bed to see what was the matter, but Checkers was just sitting on the floor staring up at her like nothing had happened. Had she imagined it? About an hour later, there was the barking again. And this time, Gina found out why. The confused mom discovered something under Checkers' paw. A piece of wool from her knitting bag had found its way onto the floor and spooked the poor pup, probably because it resembled a spider. Gina picked it up and laughed. She was relieved the whole incident had such a silly conclusion. She turned the lights off and went to bed, but with all the drama, she'd forgotten to close the door. When she heard Checkers barking again, she was too tired to see what was going on. A few moments after she drifted off to sleep, Gina woke with a start to find Checkers looming over her bed. The surprise at seeing the huge dog right in front of her face caused her to let out a yelp, which sent the dog zooming around the house, just as her youngest had stepped out of her room to see what was going on. When Checkers saw little Marie standing in the corridor, he stopped dead. Marie loved Checkers, but his energy was way too high to be around such a small girl. Gina saw the dog staring down her daughter and reacted. "Checkers," she called out, sending him darting in the other direction. Then the protective mom decided to do something she never expected she'd have to. After making sure all the kids were safely in their rooms, Gina settled the dog back down in the living room. But this time she set up a Wi-Fi security camera that they used to keep an eye on the house when they went on vacation. When she saw the footage the next morning, she grabbed the kids and left the house as fast as she could. Gina's mind was running wild. This would never have happened if she hadn't seen that Facebook post. If they just got a puppy from the pet store rather than bring an animal they knew nothing about into their family's home. Leaving her kids outside where they would be safe, Gina marched back into the house to deal with Checkers. The footage showed that Checkers had been spooked by a sparking extension plug socket overloaded by the new air purifier that had been left on overnight. Checkers was alerting Gina and the kids to the fire hazard. and if she'd left it one more night, it could have resulted in her whole house going up in flames. The very next day, the family took Checkers to the dog park and treated him to a fresh chicken leg to gnaw on. "I was really worried there for a second," admitted Gina. "I thought Checkers was going to have to go for the safety of my kids. But when I realized he was just trying to protect us, I fell in love with him even more." Gina hired a professional electrician to do a full inspection of the house before the kids were allowed to sleep in it again. Are you overloading extension sockets with too many appliances? If you are, you better get them checked out. Not everyone can count on a hero dog to alert them of a potential fire.
She hears rumors about a dog who cries up in the mountains at night, climbs up, and makes a remarkable discovery. Trinity Smith has heard rumors about a dog barking up on the mountain in Colorado, USA. Being an animal lover, she felt that she wanted to help. Perhaps there was a lone dog up there who was desperate? In the desolate landscape of the mountain, there was no houses or people, so the chance that there would be a domestic dog alive was pretty slim. Many therefore believed that the sound they were hearing at night was coming from a coyote. But there was another reason to go ahead with her search. A dog had disappeared in the area just a few weeks earlier. Although the chances of this being the dog they were hearing were very small, Trinity was determined to go. And in September 2017, she went up to the mountains to search. It didn't take long before Trinity realized that the rumors she had heard were true. Once she climbed up the mountain, she could clearly tell that the barking she was hearing was definitely coming from a dog. But it was impossible to determine where the sound was coming from. She only knew it was coming from far away. When evening came, Trinity had to head back before it got too dark. With a better idea of what she was looking for, the next day she went out there again, this time in the company of friend Sean Nichols. They took turns shouting for the dog as loud as they could. They continued to do so for about 3 hours without getting any answer. Just when they were about to give up, they heard something familiar, a dog's bark. This time they could tell from which direction they were hearing it and hurried up towards it. It didn't take long before they came across a very thin dog lying on the ground clenching on a rock. There was no doubt that the dog was in desperate need of help. The dog wouldn't have made it for much longer if Trinity and Sean hadn't found her there and then. At the time, they didn't know, but the dog they found was 14-year-old Chloe. She had escaped during a walk with her owners 6 weeks earlier. After her disappearance, her owners searched for her every day for several weeks. But it had been so long now since she went missing that the owners had lost hope in finding their beloved dog alive. 6 weeks alone in the mountains had taken its toll on the old dog. Looking like nothing but skin and bones, she weighed only 26 pounds when Trinity and Sean found her. The pair immediately lifted Chloe and carried her to the car. At the same time, they announced through social media that they had found the dog who was barking at night. It wasn't long before Chloe's owners found out that the dog had been found in the area and contacted Trinity to see if it was theirs. In that very moment, the two friends were on their way to the store to buy some dog food, so they told the owners to come meet them at the parking lot outside the store, where the dog and the owners had an emotional reunion. When an old dog loses as much weight as Chloe did, there is always a risk that its body will never recuperate and possibly shut down. But this is one strong gal. Although it's only been a few days since she was rescued, she has already shown great signs of improvement. Trinity and Sean have visited Chloe in her home, and they have become really good friends. She still has quite some time left before she is completely healthy again, but something tells me that this dog will live for many years. If you manage 6 weeks alone up in that mountain, then you can do just about anything. Many thanks to Trinity and Sean, who refused to give up and saved this dog. It's animal lovers like you guys who make this world a better place. Lost dog reunited with owner slowly recognizes scent after 2 years stuck in a shelter. Animals reuniting with their long-lost owners are not entirely new, yet learning such stories never fails to warm the hearts of people. An example of this is the sentimental reunion of Paquita, a beautiful brown dog and her long-lost owner that took the internet by storm. Just like any ordinary dogs, Paquita, who lives in Argentina, enjoys exploring her surroundings. Hence, it is no longer surprising to find out that Paquita regularly escapes from her yard to play outside from time to time. Unfortunately, during one of her adventures, Paquita failed to find her own way home. Lost and confused, poor Paquita tried retracing her tracks. Sadly, it seemed like she had wandered too far. The beautiful brown dog found herself all alone in an area which is strange to her. Luckily, Paquita was not left alone for too long. The people at the community where she was wandering found and brought her to the animal shelter. There, Paquita was given a warm meal and made sure that she was doing well. Confident that Paquita's owner would look for her, the staff at the animal rescue shelter waited for her owner to arrive at their door. While waiting for her owner, Paquita spent the days shriveled up in a corner while the staff thought of ways on how the dog will be reunited with her family. However, due to her strong desire to be left alone, the staff found it almost impossible to take a good picture of her, which they could use for an adoption/rescue poster. Because of her reclusive nature and lack of good photos to attract potential new owners, people who were looking for a new member to add to their family always chose the upbeat and energetic dogs over Paquita. This went on, and Paquita found herself staying in the rescue shelter longer. Fortunately, the staff of the rescue shelter do not have the phrase "give up" in their dictionary. With a determined heart, they eventually managed to take a good picture of Paquita. Wasting no time, they posted her photo online to generate interested adopters. But rather than getting a possible adopter, Paquita's photo captured the interest of her owner's mother. Immediately, we get a message from a woman saying that the dog was her son's and that he had been looking for her. Sylvia Freire, a volunteer of the animal rescue shelter, shared in an interview. According to the mother, her son, Ariel Navira, thought that he would never see his precious Paquita ever again. Happy and excited to meet his long-lost friend, the mother and son dropped by the animal shelter to check if the dog in the circulating poster was indeed Paquita. Initially, Paquita hid behind the rescue shelter staff and showed no interest towards Ariel. But things spiced up when Ariel dropped to his knees and called out her name. Hearing her master's call, Paquita sniffed hard towards Ariel's direction and began whimpering. And before they knew it, Paquita launched herself toward Ariel, the owner she had been longing to be with. Paquita jumped up and down from joy and showered Ariel with kisses. Paquita then went on and let out an excited and happy bark, probably thrilled to know that she'll finally be going home with her owner. From that moment, there was no doubt, Sylvia said, expressing her affirmation towards Ariel. "It was beautiful," Ariel exclaimed. "I was sad to lose her, but to get her back was spectacular. There are no words to describe it." A year had passed, but Ariel is pleased to inform everyone that since their tearful reunion, he and Paquita have been inseparable. Now the adorable tandem is making the most out of life by creating meaningful experiences together. "We are super happy," Ariel concluded with a smile.